Keep yourself in the loop of everything football. Listen to Alex and Jeremiah on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello there, I'm Jeremiah.
I am Alex, always and forever here.
Dedicated to college and NFL football. The latest football news on and off the field. NFL draft trade rumors. We've got you covered from the NFL, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything else in between. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games out of the NFL and college football. From the latest science editions, breakout stars, and all the news in between, as always, I'm Jeremiah.
And we have a newcomer on the show. It's me, Ben.
Oh, man, where did you come from?
It's my first time here. Obviously, Alex could not arrive to the studio on Friday, so I am being thrown into the limelight, into the line of fire here on Fridays. So Jeremiah and I will be your Friday hosts. Really, I mean, we talked about it a little bit on Wednesday when we did the baseball show.
Yeah, we did.
With football, I think there's obviously two big days. You have Friday, you have all the previews going into the weekend, and then you have Mondays where you have the recaps.
And the Monday Night Football preview.
Exactly. So if there's one of 2 days you want to really be on the show, it's either Monday or Friday, and I am on Friday, so I think that makes it great.
That's okay because Alex is here 4 days of the week. Actually, 4 days of the week, and actually we're not actually going to have a show on Monday.
We'll be closed.
I was going to wait till the end of the show, but hey.
Yeah, we will be closed observing Labor Day, so have to wait until Tuesday to hear Jeremiah and Alex on the next football episode after this one.
Yeah. Ben is on episode 66. I can't believe we're at 66 episodes.
You guys are cranking them out, you know.
I know. We've been doing them, nonstop. But anyways, we got lots to talk about, Ben.
We do. We have, we had some college football action last night. We have even more action tonight and leading into the weekend. Even going up until Monday, we have a game on Labor Day as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Preseason NFL concluded last night, week 4 games. Then we have really winners and losers of the preseason, all the top storylines from NFL as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the game of last night that I really want to talk to you is Tennessee and Appalachian State. This was, let's just say, Tennessee squeaked by, and they won the game by trying to find a way to lose. In my opinion, that's what it looked like because the game-winning touchdown was on a fumble by Joshua Dobbs, who got towed up, got cut in half, but they won the game.
Yeah, so we had number 9 Tennessee in their season opener, their home opener, coming out on top 20-13 over the Appalachian State Mountaineers. The game did go to overtime, as Jeremiah mentioned. Quarterback Josh Dobbs he reached for the end zone, kind of dove towards the end zone. He got hit pretty hard. He fumbled it. Luckily, a Tennessee volunteer member was able to pick up the ball and score the touchdown. Then they stopped Appalachian State on 4 downs to win the game. But really, I mean, just really not a good game for Tennessee.
It was not a good game for Tennessee at all because I'm looking currently at the box score. Joshua Dobbs, who was considered to be the second best quarterback in the SEC.
Yeah, I think he and Chad Kelly.
Behind Chad Kelly.
Miss.
Yeah, I had Chad Kelly as the best quarterback in the SEC. Joshua Dobbs is supposed to be a close second. But looking at his numbers here, they were not great. It's 16 out of 29. 192 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Those are not great numbers by an SEC quarterback who is supposed to be a top 10 in college football and a top 2 in the SEC, the best conference in the college game.
And he didn't do anything on the ground either. When you look at Tennessee, they're a spread offense. They like to run, a lot of zone reads. Josh Dobbs has the ability to run. He had no yards rushing. He had -4 on 9 total carries. So he didn't really add any elements with his legs either. He just a bad night in general for Tennessee.
Yeah, and Mountaineers defense, you got to give him credit, though. You got to give the Appalachian State credit. They played tough throughout the whole entire game. The defense contained Jalen Hurd as well as Joshua Dobbs the entire game. You can't disregard what they did. And they played tough defense throughout. You can clearly see from Tennessee's offensive numbers that Appalachian State defense was pretty good.
Yeah, think about it. Appalachian State, okay. Last night they played Tennessee. It was the 9-year anniversary of when they went into Michigan, into the Big House, and upset the Wolverines. I think you remember that game.
Yes.
Obviously, the blocked field goal at the end, which they ran back, to end the game. So Appalachian State, they're definitely not afraid of the big game. They have experience, although, 9 years ago, a lot of the players aren't there anymore. We have 2 whole draft classes going through. But definitely they have, that leadership, that experience. When I look at Appalachian State, they're one of the best, AA programs.
Yeah, they're one of the best FCS programs there is. They're very premier.
Exactly.
And,
along with teams like North Dakota State. Think about Carson Wentz, just drafted from the Eagles.
And then you got teams in the Big Sky, because I come from a school that played in the Big Sky Conference in the FCS. You got Montana, University of Montana, Eastern Washington. I can go on and on. But, yeah, Appalachian State, they're not one of those teams that are one of those, those gimme games. They're not that kind of team. They were scheduled to be one of those, warm-up games, but it clearly wasn't. It was an actual game that Tennessee needed to win. If Appalachian State would have upset Tennessee, the Volunteers probably would have I don't even know if they would have been in the top 25 because of this loss.
I think they probably would have bounced out. I talked about this on the sports show this morning. I was mentioning about college teams and how they schedule these weak opponents like this. And if I was a program, a coach, athletic director, whomever sets up these games, I would look at, of course, you're going to schedule one game, like a warm-up game, but I would sort of throw Appalachian State off the board. Yeah. I would throw North Dakota State off the board. I would look at a team.
North Dakota State is a great FCS program.
Right. I would look at what Louisville did last night against the Charlotte 49ers. So Louisville ended up winning 70-14. Quarterback Lamar Jackson has 8 total touchdowns, all in the first half, I might add. So because I would schedule a team I'd schedule Sacramento State. I would do what Oregon's doing with UC Davis.
Matter of fact, I'm actually going to Sacramento State next weekend.
You know what I mean?
Fresno.
But here's why I say this. Because look at Tennessee. By playing a weak team like this, they have literally nothing to gain and everything to lose. Because they're supposed to beat them. So if they lose, like you said, you might as well maybe even take them out of the top 25. I think they're going to drop anyway in the next poll. I'd be surprised if they're...
Honestly, yeah, they probably will drop out of the top 10.
I would think... I'd see them, honestly, somewhere around 15.
Because I remember last season, Auburn was in the top 5. They were going toe-to-toe with Jacksonville State, and they got out of the top 10. I think they were, I think they were ranked, number 15 the next week. Even though they won that game... They got dropped because the fact that they were going toe-to-toe with that weaker opponent, it really impacted their season last year. And Tennessee was the favorite to win the East Division in the SEC, and I still think they can. But this is really going to impact their season, honestly.
Right. Luckily they came out and they won the game.
Yeah.
But, if they go out and lose this game, you can throw away any chance of even competing for the national championship out the window. You know what I mean? So that's why I would find the easiest team I could possibly find. Not necessarily I'm afraid of Appalachian State or North Dakota State because they're still supposed to beat them if you're Tennessee. But still, I would not leave it up to chance. You get what I'm saying? Absolutely at all. Because if you lose that game, you can throw away any chance you have of competing for the national title out the window.
Yeah. And honestly, Tennessee's... I'm not even sure if a SEC championship could honestly get them a national get into contention. I can't even talk today. But
it's okay. It's a little early.
It's very early, but yeah, it's tough for me to see for Tennessee as a playoff contender at this point. But they're still a good team, and Joshua Dobbs is still a good player. They still got talent. I'm not going to disregard them.
It's just one game.
But, yeah, it is just one game, and they're probably just not ready to be, primetime players. Think about, this is most of these players coming from a team last year. I forgot their previous record on top of my head. I even talked about it on the SEC preview show. But, I think they had 16 returning players from last season in Tennessee. And, the talent they have is really good. They can compete with... And luckily, they're in a weaker division in the SEC. Luckily, they are. They're not we're going against Alabama, LSU. Luckily, they're not in their division. But SEC is a tough conference, and no game is easy in that.
Not at all.
So my only concern for Tennessee is how are they going to compete against other teams in their conference when they barely squeaked by Appalachian State, an FCS opponent?
I mean, that's a good question. It's possible that Tennessee maybe just overlooked Appalachian State a little bit. Obviously,
yeah, it really looked that way.
Thinking it would be an easy win, realizing, they were down at one point 13-3 in that third quarter. It was kind of like the panic button was almost getting hit. If they played that way against an SEC opponent, that's definitely a loss. You know what I mean? So Appalachian State, they missed an extra point. They missed an easy field goal they should have made. So they really kind of gave that game away, as we've mentioned. So maybe it's just one game. Maybe Tennessee's a little overrated. I guess we'll have to wait and see with the season.
They came in, with a lot of hype over there in Tennessee. They were coming into the season with a lot of expectations, with a lot of players coming back for the Volunteers. Yeah, I kind of do think they overlooked them a little bit, or they're probably just not ready to take that next step. That's probably what it is. It's either one or the other. But we'll see how Tennessee season goes from here.
Yeah, definitely not off to a great start. But some other teams looking forward to great starts. We have 3 really big games on the schedule. So we have number 12 Michigan State taking on Furman. We have number 23 Baylor opening their season against Northwestern State. And then really, in my opinion, the best game of the night, we have number 8 Stanford led by Heisman hopeful running back Christian McCaffrey against Kansas State, the Big 12 opponent.
Yes, that is the game I am looking forward to. And I actually had Christian McCaffrey as the Heisman winner.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he's going to win it. I thought he deserved it last year. To me, he was the best player in college football. But, of course, Derrick Henry took the award last December.
I think 2 things. I think, one, Leonard Fournette is by far the best player in college football.
No, well, honestly, Leonard Fournette is the best pure running back in college football. I think Christian McCaffrey is the best all-around college player. That's just me. He's kind of like the J.J. Watt of college football in a way. That's the best comparison I can give him right now. I know McCaffrey doesn't play defense, but he can do it all on offense. He can return, he can catch, he can run. He's like a 5-tool player in a way.
I think when I look at the Heisman Trophy, I think one thing, really. I think, obviously, the favorites, you have Deshaun Watson from Clemson, Dalvin Cook from Florida State. You have Leonard Fournette from LSU and Christian McCaffrey from Stanford. I think the team between those 4 that finishes with the best record, that player representing that school is going to win the Heisman. Because it's not necessarily the best stats. Obviously, McCaffrey had the best stats last year. Think about all those records he broke. But Derrick Henry got the award because of everything he did for Alabama and really they were the best team in college football. So I think that's kind of where the Heisman is going to go. So, in my opinion, I expect Deshaun Watson to win it because I think Clemson's going to finish with the best record.
Oh, so you have Clemson with the best record and winning the national championship?
I don't have them necessarily winning the national championship. I think they'll go undefeated because I think the only tough game they really have is against Florida State.
Yeah.
And Florida State, probably a little more of an experienced team, but they're coming in with a freshman quarterback. Dalvin Cook really almost had 2,000 yards from scrimmage last year. He's going to be their leader.
He wasn't even fully healthy last year. That is crazy.
So I expect Deshaun Watson to sort of win it because I think Clemson is going to finish as the top team in the regular season.
Okay. Well, my Heisman hopefuls as of right now that are going to be in New York in December are Deshaun Watson, Christian McCaffrey, and Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Leonard Fournette. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it all depends on, of those top schools, which team really finishes the best. Because a lot of time that has an influence on the Heisman.
And I really do I can't disagree with you on Deshaun Watson winning the Heisman because Deshaun Watson is the best dual-threat quarterback in college football.
I think he's the best quarterback in college football.
I can't disagree with that. I just can't.
And we'll have to see how Clemson do when they open on Saturday. They will be opening against Auburn, definitely in Auburn. Definitely going to be a tough game.
Huge game. And then what are some other games this weekend you're looking forward to before we go on? Or should we just take our first break?
I mean, what would you rather do? Why don't we just mention some of the games and then maybe we'll just preview them a little bit after the break?
All right.
All right, cool. So obviously, Jeremiah mentioned we have an action-packed week 1. We have 4 matchups within top 25 teams. That is the first time that has happened since 1950 when the AP poll was originally announced. So something that doesn't happen in 66 years. So a couple of those games are Oklahoma against Houston. That's number 3 against number 15. That game is at NRG Stadium where the Houston Texans play.
That is one game I'm looking forward to, but go on.
It's going to be a big game. Another game I'm looking forward to is LSU against Wisconsin. That game is at Lambeau Field, historic place of the Green Bay Packers. Wisconsin definitely going to be the home team there in their home state, obviously. We have Georgia opening up their season with new head coach Kirby Smart coming over from the defensive coordinator position at Alabama. They're opening against number 22, North Carolina. That game is at the Georgia Dome. USC, number 20, opening against the number 1 ranked team in the preseason poll, the defending national champions, Alabama. We mentioned Clemson and Auburn. And then really the Monday weekend college football nightcap, we have number 11 Ole Miss against number 4 Florida State.
And don't forget, we have a game on Sunday.
Yeah,
Notre
definitely.
Dame versus Texas. So these are all great games that I have my eye on. But we're going to take our first break, and we're going to get into some of these games here. And there's a couple here I have my eye on that I'm really excited to watch. So
as do I.
So we'll talk about what games we're looking forward to when we come back from our first break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we are back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. Going to be breaking down some of the top college football Week 1 games here. Jeremiah, you mentioned before the break you have a few you're looking forward to. What exactly are those?
First one that I had my eye on when the schedule came out was USC going against Alabama at Jerry's World on Saturday night. And it's a battle of ranked teams. USC is ranked number 20. Alabama, of course, is ranked number 1. This is a game I'm looking forward to because USC, I've talked about them so much on the show and about their defense. I think they really have a tough defense that they can compete against anyone. And I'm really excited to see how they're going to compete against Alabama. Alabama historically has been a run-first, power I team. We know they have lots of great running backs in recent history, like Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Trent Richardson. The list goes on. Even Kenyon Drake, the backup last year, with the Miami Dolphins right now. So, yeah, even their backups are doing good. They're on NFL teams. That's how good the running back position is in Alabama.
With that being said, though, Alabama really a question mark at running back this year. They don't really have an established running back returning, which they have had for the past 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm so interested to see how this defense competes against the Alabama offense because, some people, we know what the USC defense can do with Adoree Jackson, probably the best pure defensive player in college football, in my opinion. And, going against an Alabama defense that has question marks pretty much in running back and quarterback, it seems like they always had question mark at quarterback ever since A.J. McCarron has left. They always been that way. So I'm really interested to see how this game's going to shake out. I either think it's going to be either a blowout or a close game.
Okay.
And if it's a close game, USC has a chance. If it's a blowout, Alabama's winning.
Yeah, Alabama is favored by 11.5. So you'd say Alabama. I think Alabama will still win. Alabama seems to always schedule Week 1 a tough opponent. I think about last year they scheduled Wisconsin. Obviously different teams, but Alabama seems to always come into the season ready, disciplined. Nick Saban, in my opinion, the best coach in college football. So I think Alabama will come out on top over USC. Yeah,
and another game I'm looking forward to. I talked about this team so much on the show if you guys listen to past episodes. But Ben, I'm not sure if you listen to this show,
No, I try to listen to as many as I can. Okay.
Well, you might have to start now since you're a part of this show now. But Oklahoma going against the Houston Cougars at NRG Stadium at neutral field side, which is practically a home game for the University of Houston. Houston is coming in, so much hype surrounding them, and they look like they're about to be. They look like a really powerful Group of 5 team with the Greg Ward Jr. He is a dark horse candidate for the Heisman, and Greg Ward, he's just dynamic quarterback.
He's going to sling it around all over the place.
Yeah, and I'm just excited to see Greg Ward versus Baker Mayfield because Oklahoma comes into the season. And they're ranked number 3. Houston is ranked number 15. So we're going to find out a lot about this Houston team to see how they play against really tough ranked opponents. And this is one of their 3 toughest games of the season for the Cougars.
Yeah, I honestly expect a shootout. I'd be shocked if I would be not shocked if either team is in the 30s. I think Oklahoma will win. I think they're a more experienced team. I think they're pretty much, in my opinion, a lock to get to the Final Four, the college football playoff. I think the Big 12 is really down this year. So I think Oklahoma will definitely win the game, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're looking at a 38-30 game, something like that.
Yeah, I really do think this is probably going to be one of the most exciting games of the weekend. And I actually would not be surprised if Houston comes out on top and upset Oklahoma, but I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma here. To me, they have the better quarterback in Baker Mayfield. That's just me. I always have to go with the team with the better quarterback.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, Greg Ward is a stud. He is he is a top 5, top 10 quarterback in all of college football. But Baker Mayfield, he's just playing better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Oklahoma comes out on top.
Yeah.
So another game I want to preview here is the Labor Day Monday night football game. We have number 11 Ole Miss, number 4 Florida State. We have Florida State as a 4.5-point favorite. What do you see in this game? What do you expect?
This is a really tough game to speculate because Ole Miss has the best quarterback in the SEC in Chad Kelly, and Florida State, they looked really, really good, but they have a freshman quarterback, coming in. So, but there's a lot of talent surrounding this team, especially on offense, and so I think the inexperience at quarterback position might kind of hurt Florida State here, but I don't know, man. I don't know. This is honestly a tough game to predict because Chad Kelly is a really good quarterback. He is in the SEC, but this is Florida State. They have a really solid team all around.
I agree. Yeah. I think this is definitely by far the hardest game of the weekend to predict. You mentioned Ole Miss, Chad Kelly. He's definitely a good quarterback. He lost his top wide receiver in Laquan Treadwell. He went to the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL draft. Lose Laramie Tunsil, probably one of the best linemen in college football. A lot of members of that defense as well that was really strong, really physical. So there's still some question marks there. With Florida State, you mentioned they have the freshman quarterback. Think about the last time they had a freshman quarterback. His name was Jameis Winston. He worked out pretty well for them.
Out pretty good, yeah.
I expect them to lean heavily on Delvin Cook, the running back. Wouldn't be surprised if he goes over 100 yards, even against Ole Miss SEC opponent.
I wouldn't be surprised if he went over 200 yards.
So, I mean, I think Florida State's the more experienced team. They don't have as many question marks as Ole Miss. Yes. Just really that quarterback position. I think Florida State will somehow find a way to win the game.
Yeah, and going back to what you just said, Ben, Florida State, they have a lot more players returning and very important in positions, and Devin Cook is going to be relied on heavily in this game. So, yeah, this is a game I'm actually very excited to watch.
I agree. Yeah. It's really all the games. I mean, I expect LSU to come out on top. I mentioned Clemson, I think, will win. So there's a lot of marquee games here in week 1. They're starting off with a bang, I should say.
Yep. And so we're going to take our last break, and we're going to actually get into some preseason NFL action. The final week, guys. Preseason is finally over, and we will talk about last night's action when we come back.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
And we are back here for our third and final segment of the Golden State Media Concepts football podcast of the day, talking preseason week 4. So we had every team in action with the exception of the Redskins and Buccaneers. The game was pushed up due to tropical storms there on the East Coast. So we're talking here, Green Bay Packers lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 17-7. The New York Giants, again, beating the Patriots. Although it'll be a preseason game, they seem to always have their number. You know, they win that game 17-9. The Philadelphia Eagles top the New York Jets 14-6. The Atlanta Falcons come out on top of the Jacksonville Jaguars 17-15. Tennessee Titans finish off a really impressive preseason with a victory over the Miami Dolphins 21-10. The Detroit Lions shut out the Buffalo Bills 31-0. The Indianapolis Colts beat the Cincinnati Bengals 13-10. The Carolina Panthers end up topping the Pittsburgh Steelers 18-6. The Baltimore Ravens defeat the New Orleans Saints 23-14. The Chicago Bears defeat the Cleveland Browns 21-7. The Minnesota Vikings come out on top over the LA Rams 27-25. The Battle of Texas. We have the Houston Texans and the Dallas Cowboys. The Texans won that game 28-17. We have the Arizona Cardinals defeating the world champion Denver Broncos 38-17. Then we have a couple of games here on the West Coast. We had the Seattle Seahawks defeating the Oakland Raiders 23-21, and the San Francisco 49ers defeating the San Diego Chargers 31-21.
Yes. First game I want to talk about last night's preseason action was the 49ers and Chargers. And, you know, this game drew so many storylines that doesn't have to do anything with football, you know. But I'm not going to get into that because I technically want to talk about Colin Kaepernick's performance on the field. The first drive of the game, Kaepernick looked really good. The best he's ever looked in a while on the NFL field. And I know he was playing against the Chargers' second-team defense, and they were mediocre defense to begin with. But he put together a 16-play drive that lasted for more than 5 minutes. And he looked real. He made some throws that I haven't seen from him in like 2 years. And don't get me wrong, he had a lot of help with his receivers, but I liked what I saw from Colin Kaepernick, and I think he showed that he deserves a roster spot.
Okay, his stats not too bad. He was 11 of 18, 103 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and then he added 38 yards rushing as well. I thought Kaepernick played pretty good. You know, definitely the best we've seen of him in the preseason. A lot better than he played last week against Green Bay.
A lot better.
Yeah, so as far as Kaepernick goes, I think you're right. I think he deserves a roster spot. I think he's earned it. You know, the Niners are going to have to pay him about $12 million regardless if they cut him by tomorrow's deadline or not. So I think he's probably deserved a roster spot. I think he'll probably be a backup. I think it's Blaine Gabbert's job. He did not play last night, so obviously a lot of times in the fourth preseason game you rest your starter. Although it has not been named by head coach Chip Kelly, I think Blaine Gabbert's going to be the guy, which for Kaepernick I think is definitely a disappointment, and this kind of offense really suits his play style. Should have ran away with the starting job, but he's had some injury concerns. You know, he hasn't really played too well in the couple of preseason games he's been in as well, so hasn't really taken full advantage of it, but we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, and Blaine Gabbert is a starter whether it's said or not. Come on, like Blaine Gabbert has been he's been doing work with the team since the spring. Kaepernick barely started this summer. You know, he's been sidelined to injuries. He didn't throw in practice until I remember he even had a dead arm in practice.
Right.
But yeah, I do think Kaepernick is going to be the number 2 guy. And honestly, though, I think Kaepernick as your number 2. That's not pretty bad because if Blaine Gabbert happens to falter any time, you can just insert Kaepernick in there. So, and plus the Niners are not going to win many games this year anyway. So you can probably, if somehow Gabbert goes 0-4, 0-5, which I think probably will happen.
Okay.
If you look at their brutal schedule starting off, he can just insert Kaepernick there and just play for next year. You know?
It's possible.
Just play for next year.
We'll have to wait and see what happens. So one game that stood out to me last night was the Giants and Patriots game. So as I mentioned, the Giants come out on top 17-9. But what stood out to me is Tom Brady plays the entire first half. He goes 16 of 26, 166 yards passing, a touchdown, and an interception. It's not too bad, but they played him the whole entire half. Definitely, I think that has to do with his suspension for 4 weeks. He's going to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. To Jimmy Garoppolo's team right now, Tom Brady can't have any sort of association with the team at all. He can't throw any passes to anybody, a member of the team. So he kind of has to work out on his own on the side. So they're trying to get him as many reps as they can until he returns week 5. But I was surprised he played the whole first half. I figured he maybe played just the first quarter.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised too, because this is your golden boy here in New England, Tom Brady. Yeah, I'm surprised he played the first half. Colin Kaepernick played the entire half, but of course he didn't have any game action. Tom Brady, he's like pretty much the golden child of the NFL, and I'm really surprised. They played him the entire first half against second stringers, third stringers, but then again, he does need some work. Because he's not going to play for 4 games.
Right.
And he's not going to be with the team for 4 weeks.
Risking injury, but Tom Brady comes out unscathed. So you have to say it was, I guess, okay for Bill Belichick and the Pats.
Can you imagine if Tom Brady somehow got injured in this game? Wow.
I mean, you kind of have to think about, remember when Gronkowski got injured blocking for an extra point, and then, he hurt his arm that game. So I think you kind of have to think about it that way. I mean, Tom Brady's not really known to get injured. The only injury I can really remember for Tom Brady is that year he was out the whole year when he got injured in the first game against Kansas City. So
that hurt.
I mean, he's not known to get injured, so it is maybe taking a little bit more of a risk than I would have. But they're definitely playing safe with Brady, so he'll be okay.
Yeah, and another notable performance for the New England Patriots is DJ Foster, a receiver, catching 9 receptions for 110 yards. So a pretty good game right there for DJ Foster.
And they need a lot of help on receiver.
They do.
Besides Julian Edelman, I mean, I can't really throw out any names that stick out to me.
Julian Edelman was hurt for most of the year last season. So they need depth at that position is very important. They haven't had like an actual star at that position since Randy Moss was there, in that undefeated season. But they eventually lost the Super Bowl that year. But yeah, they had some pretty good performances at the receiver position. They got Aaron Dobson at 3 receptions for 61 yards. AJ Derby, 51 yards on 5 catches. It's pretty efficient. So I do like what I'm seeing for at the receiver position. But Patriots always find players at different positions. They just have a knack for finding players in every position. They're good at finding depth. That's what they're really good at. So that's why they've been so successful pretty much the entire decade.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think of people like Rob Ninkovich. He was cut by the Saints, and then he's a Pro Bowler with New England. They just traded to get Barkevious Mingo from the Browns. Have to see how that goes, but he really was so disappointing with Cleveland. He can't really do any worse with the Patriots, so hopefully they can get some talent out of him. Were there any other games that kind of stood out to you, performances?
Well, before I do that, I just want to point out Barkevious Mingo actually had 6 tackles last night.
Yeah, exactly. He could go from a nobody in Cleveland to a Pro Bowler overnight. It's just that winning mentality, that mindset, playing with the right group, the right system. It always happens. It happens in all sports. Think about the San Antonio Spurs in basketball. Same thing.
Yes, and you know what? The game I want to get into is the Rams and the Vikings. Jared Goff. I want to get into Jared Goff here. There's a report saying that Jared Goff is listed as the number 3 number 3 quarterback on the depth chart. He is the first overall pick last year, and he is now the number 3 quarterback on your depth chart. That has to be kind of disappointing if you're the LA Rams.
Yeah, he's had a really bad preseason, really last night too. He was 6 of 16 for 67 yards, 1 touchdown, an interception. He also lost a fumble, so 6 of 16, that's not really doing too well either. Then he had 2 turnovers. Really struggled all preseason for a team that gave up a whole lot to get him from the number 1 overall pick with the Titans.
They did. They literally pulled a Washington thing when they gave up all those draft picks to get RG3 that one year. Yeah, the Rams gave up so many draft picks.
Yeah, and for a guy who's listed currently as their number 3 starter, looks like maybe Case Keenum is going to be starting, and then you have Sean Mannion possibly as the backup.
Sean Mannion has played well this preseason.
So, yeah. If you're looking at Jared Goff as maybe your number 3, definitely have to be disappointed if you're a Rams fan and maybe even members of the organization that he hasn't really stood out or shown you why you drafted him number 1 overall.
Yeah, and I actually thought he was going to be the number 2 guy, But the fact that he's number 3, actually, it surprised me because it surprised me because, Jared Goff, he has a lot of talent. He has the arm strength. He just has that. He has the skills, but the game's probably too fast for him right now. That's probably all it is. It's probably way too fast for him, and it's a different game, different offense than when he was at Cal. So,
yeah, definitely a lot different. So, one team that really impressed me, really the whole preseason I mentioned, was the Titans, and in particular, I think Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray. So Derrick Henry, another great game last night. He had 7 carries, 62 yards, and a touchdown. I think those two forming that 1-2 punch in Murray and Henry could be really, really devastating for the Titans this year. Really a team that, in my opinion, is on the upswing, maybe a year or two away. They have all those draft picks we just mentioned from the Rams, young quarterback Marcus Mariota. If they can maybe develop that defense, get a few targets in the wide receiver position, good tight end Delaney Walker. So I think they could really be a team maybe a year or two away, but I thought they had a great preseason.
Yeah, they did. Even though Marcus Mariota did not play in this game, he has shown really great things with this offense. They signed Rashard Matthews. They drafted Taji Sharp, who looks like he's going to be the number 1 guy at the end of the year. This team the offense looks really good. I'm very excited to see. They look like they're about to be fast. Derrick Henry, straight bruiser, beat a goal line back. He was 7 for 62 yards, 8.9 yards a carry, and a touchdown. He's a straight bruiser. You got DeMarco Murray. He looks like he's revitalized there, in action in past preseason games. So, yeah, there's a lot to be excited about the Tennessee Titans offense, but the defense is still holes in it, and I do think they can use those draft picks to bring guys in to help that defense. But, yeah, they're a year or two away from being really good, and I see them winning more than 3 games.
Absolutely,
they did last year. All it is, though, if Marcus Mariota stays healthy, who knows? Maybe they might exceed expectations. We don't know. But if he stays healthy for 1 full year, I don't know. I think the sky's the limit for Tennessee Titans if this team plays well.
I think they'll be very much improved. I was surprised with Henry all preseason. Coming out of college, I wasn't really a big fan of him. I kind of thought he was maybe a little bit of a product of the system at Alabama. Great offensive lines. I thought the game would be a lot faster for him. He's not really much of a speed guy, definitely a power guy. But if you look at his body type, that's just about every safety and linebacker nowadays.
Yeah, especially defensive end, too.
So I felt like he'd kind of struggle, but he seems to be doing quite well, and he's really surprised me. So
yeah, and is there some other games you want to get into here, before we leave? Or did you just want to get straight to winners and losers?
Not really. I mean, with the last preseason game, it's kind of hard. You don't really see a lot of starters. You see a lot of guys maybe fighting to make the roster, or as you mentioned, kind of the depth chart getting finalized, number 2s, number 3. So, I mean, Christian Hackenberger really struggled of the Jets last night. 11 of 31 for 54 yards and an interception. Really, really bad. But Bryce Petty did get injured in that game, so I guess you can maybe put Christian Hackenberg as a number 3 behind Ryan Fitzpatrick and Geno Smith.
So you think Geno Smith stays there? I honestly thought that if Bryce Petty played well in the 4 preseason game, that he was going to be the number 2 guy. But
he did pretty well, but he did get an injury. He got a shoulder injury.
So, and I don't see them keeping 4 quarterbacks. So they're going to either have to choose between either Hackenberg and Geno Smith, and they're probably going to keep both of them.
Yeah, I would imagine Petty goes on the IR,
at
least for maybe the short term, maybe like the 6 week.
One? Yeah.
So, and I think Hackenberg becomes the number 3 and Geno Smith's number 2. I would not go into my season with Christian Hackenberg as my backup, especially with how he played last night. He just doesn't look ready.
Yeah,
so.
And then Carson Wentz didn't even play for the Eagles.
Yeah, he's still battling with that hairline fracture in the rib. So really unfortunate. You were hoping to see a lot of Carson Wentz here in the preseason. Looks like he was probably going to be the number 3 quarterback on the depth chart, maybe even inactive for a lot of the games. But he's still battling that injury ever since week 1, so can't really play anymore.
All right, well, before we leave here, we're going to get into some winners and losers real quick.
Yes, really quick.
Because we got to get out of here.
I got to go to work.
Yeah, all right. So my biggest winner is probably the Tennessee Titans. Well, one of the biggest winners this preseason. They have made some progress on offense. Like I just previously said a couple minutes ago. They're pretty good. They look like winners. They brought in guys to help Marcus Mariota. And Marcus Mariota looks like he has help now. He has receivers. He has 2 reliable running backs. They brought in some offensive line help in the draft. And I like what I'm seeing from Tennessee Titans this season.
Speaking of Tennessee Titans, they are making headlines. They are releasing running back Bishop Sankey, the former Washington Husky running back.
So the Bishop Sankey era is officially over in Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed. I mean, you have Murray, you have Henry, even Antonio Andrews is a decent running back. He did okay last year, so
he did.
No real surprise there. As far as another one of my winners, I got to say Trevor Siemian. Really, his back was against the wall. Looks like they bring in Mark Sanchez to be the starting quarterback. They bring in Paxton Lynch in the draft. Trevor Siemian, kind of that guy that's being left out, but then he did enough in training camp and in the preseason to win the starting job. I would expect the Broncos to release Mark Sanchez. He didn't even play last night. He hasn't played in the 3rd preseason game either. They'll save about $4.5 million if they cut him, and a 7th-round pick. 7th-round pick isn't much, but obviously you'd much rather have it than not. So I think Trevor Siemian is my winner for winning the starting job.
Yeah, he did really well. No one thought he was going to come out on top, and he looks really skinny too. So
yeah, he looks pretty good. So and then I think really the biggest winner of the preseason. And it's kind of the team overall is a loser, being the Cowboys. But the biggest winner has got to be Dak Prescott. He was by far the most impressive player in all of preseason.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Probably the most impressive rookie all of preseason. So, and getting to the losers here. Who is your biggest loser?
I think it's definitely Mark Sanchez. They brought him in. They make a trade with the Eagles to be the starting quarterback, and he loses his job. He's definitely, I think he's going to be cut, like I mentioned. Maybe he goes to Minnesota. They still are sort of on the fence about what to do. So I think he's definitely one of my losers. And then my other loser, Colin Kaepernick.
Really?
Chip Kelly comes in. I realize Kaepernick is battling injuries, but Chip Kelly comes in. Colin Kaepernick's sort of exact mindset and playing style is perfect for what Chip Kelly wants to do. And yet he still can't come in and beat out a guy like Blaine Gabbert. I mean, I realized Blaine Gabbert did okay last year when he came in to replace Kaepernick. But Blaine Gabbert is still the guy who was a bust from Jacksonville coming out of Missouri. So if he can't beat out Blaine Gabbert in that offense, I think you got to call him a loser.
Yeah, okay, I can see your point, but I'll get more onto him later. But speaking of Mark Sanchez, my loser is the Minnesota Vikings because they lost their franchise quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, and it was sad news for everyone. And to lose him just a week before the season starts, man, I have to have him as the biggest loser. This is a team that won the NFC North last year. So I really do think Mark Sanchez is probably going to go there just for a 1-year rental. If this team wants to win, they have to bring in a guy because there's no way they're going to bring in Colin Kaepernick. Because he has such a huge contract. No one wants to take on that. And,
I mean, also his mindset, a lot of people don't really want to deal with that right now.
A lot of the media attention for all his political stances. And, no one wants to bring that in. But, I don't know. I think the jury's still out on Colin Kaepernick being a loser. I don't consider him a loser, but I don't consider him a winner either.
Okay.
Well, maybe, actually, I consider him a winner because he's probably has a roster spot with the Niners. And that's probably the only team that he's pretty much the Niners are stuck with him. So the 49ers are kind of losers on that point. But Kaepernick is a winner because he's on the NFL roster. So that's probably the only team he's probably going to be with for right now because I seriously don't see any other team taking on his fat contract, all the media attention surrounding him as we speak because of his political views. So, I consider Kaepernick a winner because I think he's going to be on the NFL roster. But the 49ers, I think, are losers because, they're making headlines for all the wrong reasons. They're not, and they're just playing not good. So,
okay.
Yeah.
As far as Minnesota goes with Teddy Bridgewater, I think it's definitely a tough loss. It's definitely a heartbreaking loss. This injury was so bad that they had to really rush him to the hospital.
Yeah,
there was reports that he might even lose his leg.
Yeah, there was reports that pretty much it saved his football career. So it was so bad. Wow. And
so if it's so bad like that, you have to ask yourself: is this maybe an injury that's not going to be 1 year? Is this maybe even a year and a half, 2 years?
Yes.
So when I look at the Vikings, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater doesn't really stand out to me. I mean, he's kind of the guy we all expected. be a good leader, not going to put up flashy numbers, not going to turn the ball over a lot. He only had 14 touchdowns and 9 interceptions last year. The Vikings threw the ball less than any team in the league. I feel like if they bring in someone else, they can do the exact same thing. Obviously, going to play good defense, run the ball.
That's why Mark Sanchez fits the team right now. So
right, run the ball with Adrian Peterson. So I think losing Bridgewater is a loss, but I don't think it's a huge devastating loss. It's not like Aaron Rodgers going down for Green Bay. It's not like Cam Newton going down for the Panthers. So I think I had Minnesota in my playoffs, but now without Bridgewater, I think I'll maybe put them out. But I think they're still going to battle. I only see them maybe missing Bridgewater 1, maybe 2 games difference. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think it's still close for Minnesota.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like Bridgewater made such an impact on that team, and it's bigger what he did on the field. So that's why I think it's a huge loss for the Minnesota Vikings. But we'll see how the Vikings do.
Yeah, we'll always update you here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
It is so. Does it feel weird to say that?
Kind of. I mean, when you mentioned it, like, we're here at the football podcast, I'm like, wait, what? No, I haven't done it before.
Don't adjust our headsets, guys.
So I haven't done it before, but, I'll get used to it. No problem at all.
Anyway, so this is going to be the Friday tradition. Ben and I will do the football podcast every single Friday, and today went well. But, unfortunately, we have to get out of here.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, we're kind of, we're scheduled to get out here now. They're kicking us out. They're knocking on the door as we speak. Yeah.
Are they? I didn't see them.
You weren't supposed to do that. I was trying
to... Well, I don't know what you're... I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, our boss is he's telling us to get out. I'm like, okay, yeah, we should probably get out here before they call security on us. But anyways, we'd like for you to thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. You can catch this show Monday through Friday, but we will not have a show for you guys on Monday because of the Labor Day weekend. But we're on a variety of platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, YouTube, SoundCloud, and on our website, GSMCpodcast.com. And I think I'm forgetting something. I just can't. Oh, the Twitter. Yes.
Can't forget that.
Can't forget the Twitter. Yes. Okay. You can follow us on Twitter at GSMC_football. And you can follow us on Instagram at the same handle. That is at GSMC_football. And you can like us on Facebook at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And do you have any last words, Ben?
Not really. I'm happy to be here. I think we did a great show. I hope you guys enjoy a great 3-day weekend, a lot of great football to watch. So I hope you will be doing that.
Yes, I definitely will be. And Alex will be back on Tuesday. I will be back on Tuesday, guys. And Ben will be back next Friday.
Yes.
So catch you guys on a flippity flip. And then have a good weekend.